Hello there, future humans. Naji Coach, back at it. Today I have a question on basically the term that I've been using of future humans. Glenn was asking, let's see, he's been wondering a bit on the term future human, what exactly it means. There are many questions that stem from there as well, and one of them is, do I qualify? The question is both personal to him and most likely to other people as well who've heard the term. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to try to set the scene here a little bit, and then I have a little 5-point arc, and then we'll see if I have any other thoughts at the end. There is the aspect of anyone from the future, that's going to be out there in the future, conceptually here. They're out in the future, they're going to know more of what existence is if they keep progressing as we have been progressing, peaks and valleys, but we've been progressing forward. So they're going to look back with that knowledge, and that's how they understand everything and they evaluate everything. So in simplest terms, I would say that a future human is someone from the future. Most likely, the majority of people will have accepted certain things about the nature of existence that people who are modern have not, just like modern humans in general have acceptance of more principles of how the way of it, capital I, capital T, how that works. They've accepted more of that. There's been more inquiry and there's been more feedback through that of how this all works, which is why science has been gaining ground over the years. So for a person to be considered a future human in modern times, basically that would be the criteria, is that there are certain things that are accepted that people in the future are going to, because that's the reality that we exist in, and they'll know that. They'll have better access to data and studies and precedent and experiments that we're doing now. They'll be standing on that, looking down and backward on our work. And it comes to a question of how much influence your score, your life score, you measure in modern feedback versus future feedback. And that means that if you're in modern times, you're going to need to be looking at a longer arc, an arc that goes beyond your lifetime, that you're going to be scored in that way. So let's do a little shamanic thought experiment, okay? It's commonly done. You imagine yourself, say at 20 years old. Conceptually, let's use 20, 30, whatever, one of those numbers, and you are going forward in the world, but you now realize, I want to, I'm going to have some kind of progeny, either a child or a life's work or a combination of the two there, but basically there's going to be something that is going to ripple out from me, and I really want that to go well. I want my child, or my idea of progeny, whatever it happens to be, to reflect well back on me. All right, and this can help you live a very, fulfilled life, in that you are imagining that before it happens. You're like, oh, so I'm living this now, but what's the point? Oh, I want the next wave of me that is going forward to look back favorably on me. All right, so imagine that you have a child. Now imagine that child has a child. So now you're a grandpappy in this case. All right, so you're a grand person. You have most likely you'll still be alive then. And this is another thing that is done in the shamanic traditions, to kind of like imagine, okay, yeah, I'm going to be like 90, looking back on possibly 2 generations of me forward, right? All right, go further. To really get to be future humans, this practice, I'm going a little further than sometimes done. That's often done, that trio. But let's go further. Let's actually go great. You're a great grand person, and you want your great grandchild, your great grand legacy, whatever that is, that wave that went forward, you want that to look back favorably. That's like, whoa. But if you can imagine that, you can really have an even more future human, purposeful, meaningful life by imagining your life as it is in that arc. And that's what's going to feed you, your place in that arc. I want grand progeny, grand legacy to look back. Go one more. This is really deep, but if you can do this, then you're there at a large capacity. And we'll get into the implications of that in a second in the arc I'm going to give. But great grand. Usually you're not going to be alive for that. And if you need to, just keep speculating, keep conceptualizing this thought experiment until you get to where you're like, oh, I wouldn't be alive, but I would want that next generation. The child of my great grandchild, yes, I want them to look back on me and I'm like, legend. That's what you want. You want that approval. Okay, so sending your approval forward to your 30, 40-year-old self looking back, or more looking at you with a progeny, then you with a progeny who has a progeny, then a progeny who has a progeny who has a progeny, and then that same thing, except you're probably not around to see it anymore, but you know it's going to be there. You're going to have a great, great, grand legacy, progeny, child, whatever. So this establishes how you're scoring your life. Because when it comes to the core understandings of things, modern humans are naturally not going to give you the proper score on those things as future humans, because future humans, throughout recorded human history, and most likely before that, given how biological evolution seems to work, greater acceptance of key understandings of how existence works in the future. And so that scoring system is going to be different than the modern human scoring system, and you have to choose which scoring system is most important. If you do a mixture of them, you want to have some positive valuation in modern human terms and future human terms, but the future human has to be more. It has to be more of what is important, and so it comes down to key decisions that have to go one way or the other. That's the way you veer. All right, now for the arc. Basically, you can take, as far as like, do I qualify? You can take out anyone who is, well, this is a lot of the population. I won't give an exact percentage on it, but it's a lot of people that are really not that concerned about the underpinnings of the human condition as a primary concern, as like, oh, you really need to know that. They're like, I need to know this sport, I need to know this career, I need to know these family dynamics. There's other things like I need to know that, but that I have that functional and I am moving forward, then I'm good. So that's a lot of people. There aren't a lot of people who accept that you really need to, everyone does, some people more so than others maybe, but definitely everyone needs to have a portion of their life where they are putting that aside specifically to understand the human condition in general, their particular, aspects of the human condition, your contributions to that, and what that means, and if you're doing that well, a high level doing of that. Everyone should be doing that to some capacity in their life, but a lot of people aren't. So whatever that percentage is, no, they wouldn't count. Next, we'll kind of get in this little arc now. There are those that recognize that probably is true, but they're not willing to spend much effort doing it, or they've gotten very comfortable in a little area that they have some familiarity with. And so they're basically just too lazy. So no, we're going future humans to decide this. Future humans would not consider people who lived in modern times who did that to be really in future human, because we're going to have there's a big transition with the Mojo phenomenon, and so we're at the tail end of a big, kind of arc of modern humans, industrial age humans, starting with like say photographs till now, things like that. That's been going for a while. Now it's going to change dramatically. So future humans would look at a person who did that and go, no, they do not qualify, because they knew that there was effort that was needed, but they weren't doing enough effort, or they were doing some effort, but they realized, oh, I probably should be doing something that's a bit more challenging or outside of what I've been working on so far, because this isn't getting me what I need. So they're kind of stuck. Next is those who actually have found their way to the Mojo research, and they are looking at the A-grade samples, and they either can see it or they can't see it. The A-grade samples, in my opinion, are so strong, and I believe will be seen this way by future humans, that people who actually can't see A-grade samples, it's for one of two reasons. They're just extremely inundated with modern day influence. Thus, they're definitely modern humans, not future humans, in that they can't see what is clearly there. Or they don't want to see it. because they want to deny that there's anything to this. Okay, those both would not count, because minimum, because the strength, the A grade, you'd have to recognize that this is some kind of pattern that may go nowhere, but the implications of what is shown there demand you follow up on it. Some people will. They'll recognize that whatever these A grade samples represent, the implications start at staggering. That's the starting of it, and you can speculate much higher, much more awesome from there, but that would be the minimum, because there's the potential. With the A grade samples, you can see it, there is the potential that this could be something that's influencing so much of the human condition, it really could boggle the mind. And that would demand further investigation. Some people actually can't do that. They are kind of not wanting to shift gears into future human scoring. They're still locked into too much of a degree to modern human scoring, and so they're like, that's going to take effort, a lot of work. Yes, but it's going to give you the best raising of your score as far as future humans are concerned. Because when you think of future humans, you gotta realize right now, anything as far as like Germans and Africans and old people who do this on Saturdays with bingo and this thing and what traditional songs that they sang for over 1,000 years, that all seems like heavy. That doesn't mean anything. How many people have said this is going to last 1,000 years? This is going to last 10,000 generations. Okay, that's been said a lot. Do you know how many times that's actually happened? Pretty much. That like hardly ever happens. Even the best successes like Rome, what they thought they were going to live to do, no, even as long as that went. Yeah, even the biggest empires, no, it never did. Okay, so that stuff's all going to shift around way beyond what any of us right now can really imagine. The countries are going to do this and that, and that can shift a lot. But what's going on with blood type, genetic stuff, mojo, stuff that is part of biological evolution, anything that is done to see that, understand that, and ride on that wave, that will be in the future. Everything else is going to be fairly temporary. All right, next, third kind of part of this are able to see the A grade samples, and then from there, going out further and further, like I still see it, I still see it, I still see it. There's mental outs people are going to want to take, because if you start going, well, can this be seen in Asian? Do I see it in Asian people? Do I see it in black people? Do I see it in white people? Do I see it in young, old? What about this career? What about this career? Okay, what about politics? And there's all these what ifs of like, will it still be there? And if you can see enough, it is. It's just everywhere. There's nowhere that you're going to look that the mojo is not there, and thus it's influencing everything. It's actually, it is the key understanding of pretty much any conversation involving what's going on with humans. Because anything else you look at, nationality, different career genres, really anything you can think of at all as far as, countries, corporations, any kind of branding, any kind of teams, any kind of things that's grouping people together as they are in modern times, there's no real security that's going to be there in the future. And this gets even to stuff like spirituality and the fact that you can't look at anything humans are doing and not see the mojo phenomena as compared to, say, different even religions or other kind of apex ideologies people live their lives by. So the tipping point occurs when that acceptance, because you kind of have to have a lot of these what ifs. Isn't there something that this doesn't apply to? Isn't there a way that we can look down on the mojo phenomenon as far as human condition goes so it can be less overwhelming, less all-pervasive? But it is. It's the one world order that's already been here. It's the greatest story. It's the most awesome game. It's the most interesting conversation. So that tipping point, I would say, is when a person's the future, they know that they need to accept at least some large measure of the implications. Even if it's just as much saying like, this actually has implications that stagger the mind. They're that big. They are going to need a lot more work on in the future. Humans are going to take a while to come to terms with what this is going to mean. But as a part of favoring the scoring of future humans is, I would say, when they start publicly saying they are wrestling with this, they're wrestling with this data, that would at least put you on the map. I think future humans would probably still consider most of that to be modern human that is struggling about the coming of the next age. I think, yeah, maybe it's not a tipping point. Maybe those first three just, they're kind of like 20, 40, 60%. They're still failing. They're still not quite passing grade. So the fourth one is publicly acknowledging by saying, for example, in this case, that you are a pod layer and being proud of that. Now, it wouldn't necessarily have to be pod layer. It could be, you could say something to this effect publicly. I am studying the mojo phenomenon very seriously because it is extremely important and its implications are staggering. I would say supremely important, but I'm studying the mojo phenomenon because it's there very seriously. That's how I come at it, and I want to say that publicly, that I'm studying this phenomenon very seriously because it's extremely important and its implications staggering. So any group of people, whether it be just individual or other people who want to study the phenomenon and try to figure out on their own what they think it is, have at it, but that would be the minimum. If you say pod layer, it automatically incorporates that, because to be pod layer, you have to accept at least the first degree, and the first degree is like, that's there, it's everywhere I'm looking, it's influencing everything I'm seeing everywhere I'm looking. So saying that you do that, for myself, say you're pod layer, and do so publicly, because you definitely want to go on the record. There's a question of understanding, there's a question of bravery. To future humans looking back on humans living in this modern day era, those that either didn't want to see it, didn't even try to see it, or saw it and not very much, or they saw it and realized, oh, it is a big deal, but I'm not going to say so out loud. I don't want to actually put myself out there, have it known that I actually am studying this very seriously, because this phenomenon is extremely important, staggering in its implications. You'd want to go on public record as, I was one of the humans living in modern time that did that. That was the beginning of future humans. And then if you wanted to increase your score, I'm on record that I understand the extreme importance of this mojo phenomenon and I need to work with it. But I know that the legacies are going to be using this going forward. This is like the tree trunk. Everything's going to sprout out from here. So I want my legacy to be attached to this future human seedling tree. So that would be the fifth one, is not only do I accept that this is extremely important and needs to actually be looked at in that way, I'm going to make my life's work that. I'm going to contextualize my overall legacy in how well I am personally surfing, that area of those seas, that truth that is here, has been here, and everyone's going to see it going forward. I want to actually attach my legacy to it. I'm going to feed my legacy with it. So I like that little analogy there. Next, see if there's she likes that. So yeah, if you actually recognize, humans need to understand the human condition, but I'm doing this, or I can't be bothered, I got a lot more going on, there's things, whatever, you get 20%, okay, for actually, and this key to modern humans, that you publicly are like, okay. Next, you see the A grade, but you don't necessarily think it means anything more than an interesting visual, gallery. You get 20%. You get 20%. You can say, I saw that weird kind of art collection collage that those pod layer people are doing, but I don't think it meant much. Okay, that's 40%. You're on the board, still failing. And then 60% is I actually can see it. I've got to the point where I am seeing it everywhere. There's like nowhere I'm looking at. I can't see some part of it to the point of realizing it's still here. This programming is running everything. But the current stage, you know what I mean, that the programming is occupying, I'm worried what people are going to think. So I don't want to actually say that I'm actually seriously studying the Mojo phenomenon because it's extremely important with staggering implications. I don't want to say that. Okay, so 60%, if people actually find like your writings and they have like, pod layer stuff or things about the Mojo phenomenon, trying to study it and break it down and make some sense of it and struggling with it philosophically and observationally and so on, okay, that's better. But it's sad. It's sad that you actually couldn't actually just say that, particularly if you're in a country where there's like any kind of decent free speech. Yeah, that's sad. You have around 80% if you are saying publicly, yes, that's what I'm doing. That's the most important thing. And I organize my life in that way. Now, perhaps you actually have to have some normal family stuff, normal job stuff, whatever, while still recognizing that. That would say it's like that's like, Future Humans would probably give that somewhere like an 80. You're 80% there, so that's actually solid. But then if you can get to where more aspects of your life are having their legacy fed by this, so your family is also doing it. You're not the only one in your family who does it. If you actually can have your career some way help make a contribution to future humans understanding what's going on, then that would be even better. So the more of one's life you can have engaged with it, the better. I don't really have anything else to add to that. Thought maybe it has some thoughts, but I think I pretty much covered all there within the arc. So I'm now working on getting that Rosetta Stone completed as best I can and start working on crunching it down to data bedrock. So those A-grade samples can be as helpful a climbing rung as possible. So they're people who are in modern day humanity can actually pull themselves up into future human status. So I want that for everyone. I want that for myself. So that is why I'm working on it so much. Right now, I've been looking at vloggers, a lot of like beauty vloggers and real estate and things like that, and I'm filling it in. I would say, I think I had a magic number. Yes, 3,500. I have less than 3,500 to do in order to get to the specifically 32,000 that's made up of 1,000 each of the 32 gender mojos. I am 28,500 into that. So I suck at numbers, but those numbers are like dum. I can see the shore now. 3,500. That's far, and it's stuff that's harder to find. But that number, after all I've been through and all I've done, it's a boss. It's still a boss challenge, but and I'm tired because I've been pushing hard. I already added 6,000 new samples. I didn't read all of them, but I collect them, which takes a lot to do. And then I'm up to, I think I got another three. Probably another 4 I'm going to have next month or two that I'll add to the sample server program. So that is crushing. So I'm very, very excited about that. And yeah, going to get back to it. All right, so talk to y'all later.